This wasn't it.
No, but can you just go? Can you just copy this? Open Notepad or something. Yeah, so just say uppercase O, 1, S, H. I can do it. Alright. It's you.tv and this is the link. Oh, were you presenting from this?
Previously, I was presenting from this.
Now we got to change that as well, right?
So now that laptop will become the primary. It will broadcast from that laptop.
We want to.
But if you change now, the link will change.
Yeah, the link already changed.
This is the link.
This is a new link.
Yeah.
I'll put that up.
BSDWHB.
Yes.
O1 SH.
Are we setting up something? Do I
Yes,
need
we
to
are.
wait?
We're trying to get this. It's not 0, it's O.
Caps. This is
Yeah. DSDW.
D. All caps.
No. DSDW is lower.
It may not matter. URL caps are lower.
Yeah.
URL it won't matter.
HB. Yeah. Yeah. So I think it is what? UQ.B.
Yeah, he has to put.
You have the prefix. Perfect.
So next I got to group discussion.
So why are we not able to watch it? I can see it. Yes. It's me. Yeah, it's me. I just tried to face yes.
Okay. Can we have everybody back inside and start settling down? We're just getting started.
Yeah, it's already started. So Hello.
Yeah, those who are standing, can you all?
Just hello. This is not working.
Yeah, I think this is picking up from online. I mean, this room is connected, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's picking up from there. That's why it's echoing. So
Feeling like it's muted.
muted. Yeah, you can unmute that. Then I don't have to use this maybe. Hello? Yeah. Right?
Hello.
Hello? Yeah, it's good. You can ask them. Can someone in the online confirm that you can hear us? Can someone online give a thumbs up if you can hear us? Okay. Perfect. Can we
Yes.
have everybody seated, please? Going once. Can we have everybody seated, please?
Or just do clap once.
Yeah. Or I'm going to start singing. You don't want that. Please. Okay, our next session is going to be a panel discussion. We have 4 panelists. I'm going to invite each one of them, Vinay Balasubramanian from BSPES, and I'm going to let him explain what BSPES means. Vinay Balasubramanian is passionate about using knowledge-based learning as means for progress of society at large. For the past 6 years, he's been engaged with an NGO, Bhagavati Sarla Paliwal Education Society, so there you go, with the primary mission of bringing social and financial independence to the girl child in rural Uttar Pradesh. Along with education, he's involved in other initiatives such as health and hygiene, community development projects. He's a software architect by profession. The next one is Amit Paliwal, also from BSPES. Amit Paliwal supports girls' education and employment with focus on gender equality for girls. He is an active board member of NGO Bhagavati Sarla Paliwal Education Society since a long time, with a mission of promoting girl-child education and equal rights. He's a software engineer by profession as well. We have a pattern here. So Chalam Palikat Shikshana Foundation. Welcome. Chalam, I'm hoping I'm not butchering your last name, Tarjan. Okay. So, Mr. Chalam is the COO of Shikshana and launched Shikshana's government partnership model. Prior to Shikshana, Chalam headed the international consumer gift card business for Amazon.com and was a volunteer with Asha for Education with the Washington, D.C. and London chapters. Avram Srijan Chakrabarti from Asha for Education, he's going to moderate the session. Srijan has been a volunteer for Asha Seattle since 2003 and had taken up different roles within the chapter, including treasurer and chapter coordinator. After working as a software engineer for 9 years, he left his job for full-time non-profit work and earned a degree in Master of Social Work from University of Washington. Currently, he directs a non-profit in Seattle with a mission of increasing food security locally. So, give a big round of applause for the panelists. I think if you can speak and maybe the online can hear you guys without the echo, but you can have it as a backup.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Again, one more big applause for our panel here. Thanks for being here. I'm going to keep the discussion fairly open, so we'll give a chance. I have a handy list of questions that we had prepared. So I'm going to give everyone a chance to kind of explain their work in the first part, and hopefully we'll leave some time for questions, answers. So I would request you to keep the first part close enough, short enough, so that we can spend more time doing more interactive questions. So with that, maybe I will. The first question, which is like generally give a brief background of your work and your involvement for both organizations. So maybe start with Chalam.
Hi everyone. Sorry. So Shikshana Foundation was actually founded in about 98 or so. So it's, and I say or so because there are multiple definitions of when we launched. So at some point we get that figured out. That's we call that a second priority if we get there one day. In the meantime, our focus as an organization is on student motivation to learn, right? What we mean by that is there are a lot of organizations that are working on what we call the supply side of the problem, which is, you know, do we have enough teachers, school infrastructure, you know, do we have the right policies, do we have the right teaching methods, and so on and so forth, right? What we want to do is we want to focus on the demand side of the problem, right? Who is consuming this? Who is at the center of, if we thought of a customer in this relationship, who is the customer? And there are multiple definitions of this, and I don't want to state it as if there's only one definition of the customer, but in my view, the customer here is the student. Now, if we, and again, there are other folks who would say that this customer is a parent, the customer is a teacher, and so on and so forth. But we come to all of that later. But that's our definition is that the customer is a student. So we work backwards from there. We say, what gets the student motivated about coming to school, about engaging in school, about taking charge of their learning? I think so. Those are the three pieces. So we start with doing things like offering rewards and incentives. So we'll give these non-financial rewards. These are these shiny star-shaped badges. Kids like shiny things. They start showing up for school. And they start showing up for school, and then they start engaging in school. So we start giving these badges for attempting, for trying, for participating. So, and that's the key point of difference. It's not for achieving, right? So and the kids know that they can just get this by showing up regularly. They know they can get this by asking a question in class. They can get this by trying to answer a question in class. They can get this we give out these booklets and for just completing some of these booklets and so on and so forth. So it's all, what we want to reward is effort, right? So that's the first thing. Then the second part of it is then building a culture or building the school out as a zone of success and a zone of support, rather than a zone of failure. And the way we do that is by creating a peer network. So you have students, and we create what we call a student club, and then we have these leaders. And then the student leaders are basically pushing their peers in the class to get some of these tasks completed. And at the same time, providing actually a support network so that if the student has a question, they don't have to approach the teacher about it, or parent can certainly approach the leader. But we also highly encourage students to leverage everyone in their network, everyone in their network to learn. And that's something that we just keep pointing out all the time. So this just goes into you building out that support structure and that social network in the school so that kids feel motivated about doing this. And this is something that should be very familiar to us in Asha, because I think a lot of us at least started out viewing Asha as a social network, right? And we came here, and then of course, and I'm not saying everyone got here with that approach, but I do know personally a lot of volunteers who came with that approach. And it's kind of similar, and it keeps a certain amount of sustaining, it has a certain sustainability built into it, and what that means is, rather than giving out these financial incentives or other incentives, you've got a mechanism where the student wants to come to school regularly, and almost it gets disappointed when they can't make it, right? So that's the social network piece of it. And then there's a third of it, which is basically starting to provide some structure. You've got this kid fired up, they want to learn math, etc. Now, what kind of structure do they have? At the moment, it is, the way the pedagogy is laid out very often is that, hey, here's one way to do this, and then here's some exercises, and I'm going to go start it out, right? And then they're introduced in a common framework, so which means if I'm taking a class on algebra, if I'm going to just start out, all of you are going to start with me right now, regardless of whether or not you're ready for it, right? So the idea then is from our side is to say, no, look, different students are going to learn at different rates. I think this is a well-accepted notion, and you've got Khan Academy saying the same thing, and so on and so forth. So this is not news, right? Except that there hasn't been a framework to do this in an offline space, right? Where you're not having kids sit in front of a computer and doing these things. So a couple of different things we've said is we want to have students consume in bite sizes. So we create these small booklets that they can complete and have the sense of accomplishment for completing those booklets. Then we also basically say, for every concept that we're going to introduce, particularly math, we're going to present that concept in at least 3 different ways of solving that issue, right? And in that way, what the student is basically getting is, hey, there's no one right way. You can come at this problem from multiple different directions, and maybe one of them works better for you than the other, right? And what that allows them to do is start making progress on concepts and not feel like, hey, okay, I just don't get this, or I'm too stupid, or whatever it is, right? So this, and basically, as they start making progress, as they start completing these booklets, they're also able to start getting what we get these stickers on what we call a learning map. So it's kind of a progress indicator. So think of it as a jigsaw puzzle, but many of the pieces miss. That's what they get at the beginning of the year. And as they learn each new concept, they get one more piece of that jigsaw puzzle, and then they build it out over the year. And their goal, of course, is to complete it. Now, this is a very tangible way of explaining to a child as to what they need to accomplish by the end of the year, versus saying A, B, or whatever, providing them a letter grade or a numerical grade. And this is also something we find to be very motivating. I mean, in the end, as they go through all of this, what's the end state that we're looking for? So to me, so this kind of comes back to the question, what does student motivation look like in the end state when you get what you want? So for this, I think the most vivid example I have in my head is when I visited this school in Anikal. So this Anikal is this block near Bangalore. And this is a school where Dell has a technology program that Dell is sponsoring this technology program, and Shikshana is the operational partner. We're delivering it. We develop the curriculum, and we're delivering it on the ground. And so we get to the school. This is about 9 o'clock in the morning. School's open at about 10:30, right? And this particular school is about 10:30. It varies a little bit, right? And so we get there about 9 o'clock in the morning, mostly because we want to see what happens before school starts, right? And the students often just congregate before school starts. They often play, or they're doing other things, whatever they're doing, right? And in this particular case, we get there. The tech program is such that there are about 5 tablets that the students have to share across 4 classes, right? This is classes 4, 5, 6, 7. And so the students have prepared for themselves, the student leaders have prepared a schedule for how the kids will share it, right? So it's not the teachers are getting in and deciding that. The students have decided what that schedule will look like. This girl it was her turn to get it, right? 9 o'clock came, she was there on the dot, right? 9:15, basically the student leader isn't here yet to open the cupboard and give her the tablet. She's getting antsy, she's getting irritated, right? 9:20, the student leader comes in, right? And this girl is basically going, what's going on? Where are you? Where have you been? I mean, my turn starts at 9 o'clock, right? You make sure that at the end of this, I get my full 1 hour. This is what's due to me, you make sure that I get that, right? And so this is the mode. This is the mode in which she's operating. Then she gets the tablet, and then she opens the tablet, she knows exactly what she's doing. She's not using it for fun or whatever it is. And by the way, we totally don't prescribe what the kids should use it for. Go ahead, if you want to play a game, go ahead and play a game, no issues there, right? But this girl basically opens up this English app that she's been practicing on. She skips multiple sections. Now, at this point, I don't know why she's skipping these sections. She just skips these sections, right? And then she gets to this other section, and then she starts playing this game. And it's a gamified way to teach English, right? So she starts playing this game, and she's terrible at it. I don't understand what she enjoys so much about this, but it just feels almost masochistic, right? She just keeps going there, the score's not going anywhere, she fails, okay, then she starts again, and then skips the other sections, comes here, and then plays this again. And then basically I just observed this for a while, so I was just wondering, I asked her, so what are you learning? And then she just looks at me, and she just looks dazed at me, as if, who are you? And why are you bothering me? And then, so I said, all right, fine. And then she nothing, so I said, fine, okay, just finish your turn. She finishes the hour, hands in the tablet, and I was like, okay, so what were you learning? What were you doing? And she said, yeah, I was just learning English. Monosyllabic answers and short answers are part of the course. So she says, I was just learning English. Okay, cool, sounds good. So I saw you skipped all these sections. What's that? Oh, I know all that stuff. I'm not going to waste my time with that. This is the stuff I don't know. I'm going to focus on this. To me, this is deliberate practice. This is what a motivated student looks like. Someone who's identified what they're good at, what they're not good at, and they're focused on fixing pieces that they feel like they're missing, right? So, and by the way, I've seen the contrast in the vast majority I've seen is the contrast where we hand out these booklets. We can see the pattern where the students have filled out the sections that they found easy. They've left the others blank, and if I ask them, have you completed your booklet? The answer is yes, I have completed the booklet. And how is it? Oh, it's easy. And then okay, but why are all these other sections missing? No answer, just silence, right? And then it's almost like they didn't hear the question. They go, okay, but when am I getting the next booklet? So the notion is more, how do I keep moving forward? It isn't, have I learned this? The critical thinking, the self-evaluation, right? So what this basically told me is that it's actually very easy to measure motivation, because we started out in this place where we said, hey, motivation is a very touchy-feely concept. And up to this point, Shikshana has been measuring its performance, right? And we measure performance using the standardized test called USSER, which many of you are probably familiar with. But put it in a nutshell, at least on the math side, the notion is that you should be able to divide a 3-digit number by one single-digit number, right? Let's put it in a nutshell, right? And what we found is that, across Karnataka at least, the state average is 30%, right? And what we were getting is something like 80%. And we said, oh yeah, that's our key metric. But now as we talk about motivation, what we realize is by just looking at some of these booklets, looking at completion, looking at how many booklets you had to complete and how much you did voluntarily, because all of this was voluntary, right? By looking at that, we can get a pretty good quantified sense for how much motivation you have as a student. And that's been a real breakthrough for us, right? So if you think about motivation, that's how we're thinking about student motivation. I'm sure you have questions about other aspects of motivation, which we'll talk about offline.
Thank you, Shikshana. Okay. My name is Vijay. Vinay is, I think, the other person on the other side. Any case, just to give you a background about BSPES, the story goes back about 31 years since this Thursday, when the founder of our organization, who was a chemistry teacher in a local inter-college in a district in Aligarh, he noticed that the girls' representation in the classes from the villages were dismal at best. We are talking about 2 students he would see in 3 years. So he took it upon himself to start a school which is primarily going to focus on trying to get girls into the school system. We are very familiar with the mindset of the guardians with regards to girl children in Uttar Pradesh, as Dr. Pandey, both of the Pandeys explained. So I'm not going to repeat the whole thing. So he started it with the very simple vision of getting the girls to school to give them some very basic and skills and knowledge so that they can become self-reliant and do not have to depend on their male counterparts for their life to be driven. If you think about it, the child who's born as a girl child in rural Uttar Pradesh, from the time she's born, she is dependent on the father and the brother, and later on she's married off and she's dependent completely on the husband, and then later on the son. So there is a chain of events that go on. So he started this organization there and essentially focused on bringing the girls to school. He started going door by door to the villages, which is a largely agriculture-based environment that we are talking about. It's about 2 hours, 2.5 hours from Delhi, but from a mindset perspective, from a development perspective, is very far behind. They still follow the customs of the tribes that we come from Rajasthan. So early marriages is very prevalent, though the percentages of this have come down. That vision of getting the girls to a safe place where they can come and learn some kind of skills. But slowly, as Mr. Pandey has found out that you cannot educate or teach a girl anything if she lacks very fundamental aspects of what it is to come to school. So we started to look at the second part, which is nutrition. What can we provide as food? So we started stepping away from education and we started to provide them a very simple impact breakfast for the students. And the second aspect which is there is absolutely no transportation facilities for these girls to come from school, from their villages. You're talking about 7 kilometers, 14 kilometers, and we're talking about 0 degrees Celsius to 45 degrees Celsius in that part of India. So you will find that on a very high temperature day, the school attendance just completely goes down. The student cannot cope up with it. So we had to extend and provide a transportation service. We have a set of cycles that is provided for students for 3-kilometer radius for them to come to school and go back. With the agrarian economy taking a dip, with the farmers, the revenues are not there, they are not able to sustain their own families. We cannot expect them to pay for anything for the school with student with regard to her education. Books, no. Books are not at all purchased, no copy books, no pencil, no nothing, no uniform. So we had to step in and again provide that aspect, shoes, uniform, jacket, and then we had to provide a solar lantern for the students to study at least for a little bit. However, what we have done in our school is we have connected every subsidy that we provide to their attendance. The 90% attendance will get all of these subsidies. We do not want to establish this notion of freeness. The mufat mein mil jata hai. That is an attitude because they value what you try to provide accordingly. They say because it is free, there is nothing really. We charge a very, very low cost. We are talking about 90 rupees per month. Money that we give back to the guardian is actually around 9,400 per month. So we get 65 and it is about, that amount is given as subsidies. We are okay with that, but we still want their skin in the game to question us, what are you guys doing? So they believe with the 65 rupees that they give, they can step up to the principal and say, how come my student is not doing it? We kind of moved that, but the health and hygiene. The girls during their cycles, you will find a majority of them do not come to school. And in our villages, which are hamlets, which are about 14 kilometers, there is always a senior student who is a pack leader. She is in charge of taking the whole fleet from the villages, from their village to the school. So obviously, when she is going to be having her cycles, the other guardians are then saying that Didi is not going, nobody is going to school, go back home. So we had to provide, we gave them a proper toilet system in the school, top class toilet system. We are providing sanitary napkins, 3 packets to the girls through a sponsorship organization. So now the girls are more than willing to school come during that time. And health and hygiene, vitamin supplements, anything to bring them to school. So after they come to school, what do the teachers, like Sarji said, they are all the products of the very same system that we are trying to transform. And the for-profit schools are operating. The for-profit schools are there on one side. We also have a coexisting market of profit-making teachers. Basically, to go after these students to start their own revenue-making scheme. So you have students going to government schools, which is zero cost, but the same teachers will be taking these students for tuition at 600 rupees per course or 1,200 per course. So the challenge we have is in that area where we are trying to give them some skills. So what skills do we give today with the limitation that we have? We operate on the basic premise that the student should have the capability to focus on whatever they are trying to do. Gas card or say, you're doing mathematics, do it well. So we want to bring some focus into whatever they want to do. Second is the decision-making ability. Because of the fact that their entire life is driven by somebody who tells them, kab uthoge, kab soge, when you are going to do what. They are always looking at the other person saying, what should I do? So we try to bring the notion of decision-making. Make your own decisions. Good or right, make a mistake. That is fine. And the third part is the courage, that we will stand by you if you decision, if you decide that this is what you would like to do, forcing you do not want to get married, we step up and we try to support the students. So that is the limited premise of education for the majority of the students. Of course, there are going to be exemplars even in our area where they are capable of doing excellent work. So the way we have categorized that is in 3. One is called near things that our students can do with the approval and the permission and the blessing of the family. Government jobs, which is the teacher's job, the railways jobs, which they try to give posting in your relative taluk or kind of thing. So there is a good interest in that, so we cater to that. What we call as a close, where the students go to places for working, those who have joined our Vrindavan nursing program, where the guardians are little bit progressive, where they are willing to risk and send the girl outside the community, and we stand by and say the girl is going to be good, she is not going to catch any of the things that you are worried that she will learn from the other culture. rare cases of remote wins where two of our students actually are here in the US, studying on a 1-year US government paid program, to basically get course in hospitality management or in computer management. And when they go back, they can join a multinational company of some kind. And we have students in Yoga University in Bangalore, learning diploma courses in mechatronics and in computer science, etc. So these are the three categories with which we operate on. And so far it has gone well, and we are able to proudly say that we have over 1,200 students who have come to our school and completed 12 years and gone. I do not want to claim that they graduated because I don't know what they graduated in. But I can tell you that these 1,200 students came, learned the philosophy that hopefully will make them better mothers, better capable students going forward. So the students who go for graduations have increased, meaning further education has increased rather than staying at home. Number of students now raising their hand to go to the close-win schools, close-win jobs is rising. And of course, the number of students who want to come to America, there is a huge demand for that. So, so those are the little background about our organization.
Thank you for the excellent introduction. So I actually want to get a quick clarification on how long we should go. I know the original time was to 12:15. Shall we go? We started about 10 minutes late. So shall I go like 12:25?
12:30.
12:30? Okay, so that's good. That leaves us decent time to go over a few more questions. So the one question that we would ask is like often like most of the ASHA volunteers in this in the US, obviously we are not dealing with the day-to-day realities on the ground, and you are there. I mean, many of you are there, are connected with the people who are doing the work day-to-day. So you don't see many of the challenges that you often do. Seeing things from here seems simple. Like we can sometimes tell, oh, why is you just do it? But obviously, it's not as simple when it gets to the ground. So maybe a quick kind of from your point of view, wherever you are working. What are some of the challenges that you see on a day-to-day basis? If you could tell us a little more about that, could be challenges with respect to funds or policies, internal policies, dealing with the government, dealing with people, whatever the challenges you face, like maybe limited to the top few that you can make.
So I can.
How about I go with you first?
Yeah,
Sure. Hello everyone, my name is Amit Paliwal. I've been part of BSPES since almost 10 years. Yeah. So, Cheren's part with respect to the ground level, I mean, we work for an NGO which is girls' education. So, we mostly face a problem when we go to this nearby villages, which is about, we support nearby 30 villages. So, if they have a sibling, boys and girls in the family, so parents prefer sending boys to the school instead of sending girls. Because their main motive and the mindset of the people in that area, specific area, is why do they educate girls? Because anyways, girl is going to go out, get married, Hispanic, and they don't have a limited source of income. They are most of laborer. Main source of income is agriculture. So that's the main problem. So to encounter that, we usually go to different villages, do some campings, make them aware of what is the level of education, what we can support it. Like Vijay has already covered it, that we provide different kind of values to the kids who comes to the school. They come in that they're going to make 90% attendance, and their parents commits that the girl will not get married at least 18 years of age. Those things, and along with that, like solar lighting project and a toilet building project which we have, which has understanding, which gives the parents understanding that this is what we are getting it. And once girls' child get educated, seeing the seniors that they are going to a different schools, going to a different places like Bangalore, Noida, or US for different education programs. programs, they are getting placed in the multinational companies, getting jobs, they're earning good salary. So those are the positive things we need to show them to get them. And the financial part I'll ask you.
So from a challenge perspective, I can tell you the biggest challenge we have in UP is the systemic challenges. It is, yes, there are challenges with the guardians, there are issues there, but I think those are all small when compared to the systemic problem. What do we mean by systemic problem? Safety is a huge issue for girls in Uttar Pradesh, meaning even the 3-4 kilometers that the girl has to come from her village, okay, the times of the day has to be carefully chosen. And even if she's 5 minutes late from coming back from school, her father is going to parade her on what happened. They are largely driven by what the society thinks and the society talks. So that to us is an issue. To the extent even the principal of the school cannot leave much later than, as soon as it gets dark, she's not to be in the road. So safety and security is a huge issue for us, which is completely ignored, which is considered as, this is how it happens here. Infrastructure, when I say infrastructure, electricity, there is no electricity. The electricity will come on probably at 4 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock in the morning. And everybody turns on their pump sets, or everybody, for example, in our school, we fill our water tank at that time. That is the only time that is available. Now we have a few 3 kilowatt, 6 kilowatt solar panels which are there, which we sometimes fall back on to do it. So that is the second. Is the transportation facility. The students, I talked about 3 kilometers, 7 kilometers. Now what about this 14-kilometer girl? The government has a law saying that you can only charge 1 rupee for a student, but the private buses don't stop when they see a pack of students in care, which is about 32 kilometers from our school. So as soon as the students, they just leave them and go. And then even if the students get into the bus, the journey is not a pleasant one. The kind of harassment and the pushing and all of that goes on. There are teachers who come late consistently, and when we have put them up saying, what is the reason why? She said, sir, I do not want to take that bus. If I take that bus, I will come on time. But the kind of harassment I will go through is not. She goes back home 1 kilometer, and then she comes to catch the next bus. So these are all the systemic problems which exist in an area like ours. Government, as much as when it operates, is a great help. But we have found that right now many obstacles are dropped by them rather than help. I can tell you that 12 years back, we pulled back the government assistance for which we had filed as an organization, which means the salaries will be paid by the organization, but the operations will be done by us. We basically said no because of what we saw happened in the other schools. As soon as that was done, the accountability that we can get from the teachers is lost. Schools are grounds for political lobbying in UP. There is a huge, huge voting population who are all teachers, who are corrupt, who will work with the government. They will bring politics inside the school. You have the BJP side of the school, you have the Congress side of the school, and they will not come to school. They will find some boy in the village, pay him 3,000 rupees to come and sign the register every day on that. Keeping that, so we had to cut. We closed the file, as they call it in the UP now. We closed the file saying we don't want the assistant. Trying to get the funds for this is always challenging. Meaning if there is an explosion of NGOs also, in case you are keeping track of how many NGOs have come recently in India, especially after the CSR law came into the effect. Now you have proxy organizations that have been created by corporate themselves to push their CSR percentages in there. That is there, the funding aspect. We are largely driven by individual sponsors. I can say maybe we have 2 corporate sponsors who have given us about 4 lakhs one time, etc. But otherwise, it is largely driven by individuals who contribute to us. So challenge is that people from even Noida to come and live and to teach our students is not practical. Because like I told you, the electricity problem, their children don't have a good school to go to, so they will not come to our area. And it's a making enterprise everywhere they look around. And like Maheshji said, they are looking for certain certainty. If a certain number of years is being spent in a place, and you are taking them away from a 200 rupees earning or 200 rupees saving. In your farm, if your daughter works, you're saving 200. If your daughter goes to work in another farm, she's earning 200. So how are you going to place it in front of them? So these are some of the challenges we have in our organization.
That was very illuminating, thank you. So Shikshana is somewhat in a different context here. I think we've been focused a lot on Karnataka. I think it's been actually very helpful to hear a lot of the UP commentary, particularly because we've been thinking about how should we think about UP. So thank you for that. Now, in Shikshana's case, I would say, given that our focus is on motivation, student motivation, a big challenge for us has been how to communicate this concept, right, particularly to teachers, right? So because we have full-time employees who visit these schools, and they visit these schools once a fortnight. And when they visit the schools, they are basically monitoring the program. They're working with this, we've created this student leadership body, right? And the student leadership body is the one that's actually driving these programs on a day-to-day basis, right? So these guys are just going there to mentor this student leadership body to say, how are things going, how can we help you, and so on and so forth. However, from a teacher perspective, what they see is, I see an extra pair of hands who can come and potentially teach and give me a free hour, right? And there are a number of reasons for that free hour, so I don't want to necessarily just say, oh, all those free hours are bad, right? Because believe me, government school teachers, certainly in Karnataka, have a ton on their plate, right? They're not just used, to be very clear, they're not just teaching in the school, they're also electoral roll officers, they get called to be witnesses in court. Like it just feels like if you cannot find anyone else to do something for you, just go grab the local school teacher, right? And so they have a lot on their plate. So I sympathize with some of that. So regardless, so they see this as, oh, why can't you come and teach, right? Why can't you come and just teach? You're here for half a day. Why don't you spend the whole day here, teach for a day, and then I can use that to do other things, right? So, but then at the same time, getting them to think, no, look, so that's one thing. And the second piece of it is, okay, you're giving out these stars. Like I told you, we give out these shiny star-shaped badges. So teachers, by default, to doing things like, I want to reward accomplishment. Oh, I asked a question, you got the answer right, I will give you a star, right? So getting teachers to understand, no, look, I need you to focus on effort and attempts, not on outcomes, right? I want you to focus on students' input. That has been a bit of a challenge in terms of communicating. But then over time we've gotten, because teachers have started to see the value of it and have started to make that transition, but that transition, we always find that there's lead time. So last year we covered about 3,000 schools, into 3,000 government schools. We only cover government schools in rural and semi-urban regions, right? And so last year we were supporting about 3,000 schools, or about equivalent 300,000 children, right, or 3 lakh children. This year we are now looking to step in and say, okay, we are going to cover an additional 5 districts and potentially even the entire Karnataka state. So then as we're looking at that, we're talking about major leapfrogs in how much scale we are going to take on, right? So one of the things we are thinking about is how are we going to communicate these concepts effectively to all of these teachers. So this is the big challenge in our mind, which is how are we going to scale our program and get people to understand it well enough and implement it well enough. And for this, and this actually ties into what Asha is actually funding for Shikshana, right? Which is Sasha has basically been one of the supporters of this technology platform or an app that we've created that we are using to monitor what is going on in the schools and start collecting data back, right? And then this by looking at the data, we can sort of start figuring out whether the program is on the right track or someone needs support. The idea is not to go and beat up people. The idea is to figure out who needs support. And because that's the other aspect of the big challenge. When people need support on the ground, they don't raise their hand. Their natural default tendency is to say, okay, whatever, and then just close it. Like teachers will attend a training, They will come, they will try and put it in effect in the class, and then they say, oh, okay, I didn't fully understand that now that I think about it. Okay, never mind. And then you find these pristine kids, right? These math kids and science kids, some of these are absolutely pristine sitting in the headmaster's cupboard, right? They've never been pulled out simply because maybe someone tried it once, they attended the training, they got the kit, they came back with it. Maybe they tried it, and then they thought, maybe that's not quite how it's supposed to work. Then, all right, I'll just put it in. And then they're actually very proud to show it to visitors because it's in such good condition, right? But for us, if it's in good condition, that's a bad sign. So we like to see things in use. So one of the things that we're actually now able to do is, and ironically, this technology platform that we built to monitor our programs. I said, okay, why don't I want to use this statewide to monitor summertime midday meals. Nothing to do with our program, that's not how we're thinking about it. But then there's enough take-up for that kind of monitoring because they're starting to see the value of that data come in and the value of, and they also agree with the mechanism in terms of how that data is collected. Because by the way, there's a lot of garbage in and garbage out for data because people will just submit a bunch of useless data, usually fudged, right? But again, we have to each step of the way understand why is it being fudged? Like what are the systemic reasons why people feel compelled to do these kinds of things? And what we've found in this case is we reinforce to teachers also that we are asking for some of this information because we want to understand who needs support. If you basically tell me everything is good in the school, then you're going to get no further input from me. Right? Everything is good, you're good on your own, right? But if you want inputs from us, if you want and if you want us to raise the issue to the government so that they will give you that input, and we have built up that confidence that we can do that, right? Then we say, but for that to happen, you have to tell me what the problem is, right? So then I think this is one of the ways in which we've been able to get people to supply data, right? And hopefully this is something that we can get better at over time. So to summarize, I think for us, the big challenge at the moment is how to scale, and the tech platform that we've been building with Asha, I think has been particularly helpful on that front.
Thank you again. I think learning from very different perspectives from two very different regions, I think is very illuminating for many of us. So I will actually skip one question that I had and move to the last two, which I'll combine together. It's from your perspective, what do you see the role of Asha as currently, right now, beyond funding, if anything, and what can we do better? What are the things where we can be more effective in helping you achieve your mission? So I can start with Amit.
So for the ground level, I mean, the main problem which we face is about teachers, the good teachers coming to that place because it's a remote area. So people from, with good knowledge, good skill set, which can train our teachers or train our students, give them good quality of education. Problem we face because the completely remote area, being an NGO cannot pay a very high salary. So considering that, if Asha with other chapters of Asha in India, if they're working with other training, teachers training program or something where they generate the volunteers who can visit our, take some summer classes or whatever the possible. That's fantastic.
One area where we seldom run problem into, but we really do not have the capacity or the domain expertise to venture into is something that Mahesh had mentioned, what they do at the grassroots level, which is to appeal to the government, persistently protest to get some basic rights that should be done. He was talking about getting the RTO. That is just one form of it. We make a visit to the government school. We are talking government facility of any kind, be it a sales tax reimbursement form or trying to get the register of the students taken care. There is always some portion that they expect for the paperwork to go through. Our staff being in their capacity in the community do not have the capability to fight. Will get retribution directly back from the community, and they do not want to take. Sir, I didn't sign up for that. I signed up to be the principal of the school. I am not somebody who's going to go and fight about why the external examiner is asking for 30,000 rupees to make a visit. Okay. So I'm hoping that with the work that Mahesh is doing, whatever at the grassroots level with the government interaction they have had successes with, they can assist us in taking up some of our cases and trying to get some work done there. For example, let us take helpline, right? The notion of the helpline that is prevalent whenever some kind of violence happens on a girl, it is only namesake in our area. Okay, nobody pursues it. The village, they keep it hush hush. You do not come to know what really happened. We do tell our students about the helpline if some kind of abuse happens. But again, none of the teachers or anybody in our system capability to go and fight the case of the student. So with somebody like Mahesh and the organization that Asha is running at that level, helpful where that way we can separate ourselves from the antagonizing aspect of pursuing such an activist role in the community and focus on what we are good at. I will be honest with you, I'm going to be a very, very bad persuader when it comes to what the government should be doing. It calls for a certain expertise, certain knowledge of how the mechanism works and how to work the apparatus to your advantage. And you need somebody there daily who's soaked into it to know how to get things done. So that is one area I would really like. And second, like Amit said, if ASHA chapters or ASHA fellows are creating grassroots level motivated fellowships, we are looking for such people. Right now the challenge is we are looking for people who are talented, asking for a big paycheck when they come in as a teacher, but their motive is also to make money from our students. So we are having teachers from Noida who are saying, give me 35,000, I'll come to your school. But at the same time, they're also looking at how they can make tuition money off of. So the mindset is the key. So I think somebody like a fellowship from ASHA or other chapters, where the service-oriented nature is there. And we can pay the salaries that are probably going to be the 70th percentile of what the private offers. And we can provide them a place to fulfill their personal goals in terms of education transformation.
Yes, I have a couple of different perspectives, but interestingly, they both kind of converge on the same thing. I actually found out about Shikshana was through ASHA, right? So I used to be an ASHA volunteer, so I was with ASHA DC chapter, and the founder of Shikshana had come to an ASHA conference. So this is interesting, the second ASHA conference I've attended. So for me, ASHA is actually doing a great job of actually cross-pollinating. And as a steward, as a project steward, I actually had the opportunity to visit multiple projects and see the different contexts of it, right? I think to your earlier point, you would think it's a bit frustrating. You think this is a big problem. Why aren't we just focusing on it, fixing it, and getting on with our lives, right? Surely this must be easier than this. And I think that coming and seeing all these projects and going and doing these exercises and understanding the different contexts to the point where, and by the way, I've also been part of several conversations where you say, should we be cutting funding to this program? Are we done here? Because this doesn't seem to be going anywhere, et cetera, right? But then you start to realize that the context of some of these projects is so widely different that it needs a different framework. You can't just apply one set of metrics and just put it there. Anyway, that's a different conversation. So all I'm trying to say is that I think ASHA is doing a great job in terms of exposing a number of people to the issues on the ground. And that exposure is important on the project side, because then when we come to make the funding pitches, right? And not just here, because there are ASHA volunteers in corporates and doing in CSR as well, right? So when we go and put it in front of them, they have some appreciation of the problem we're trying to solve. They have some appreciation of what the big challenges are, and that makes it easier to have that conversation, right? So I think that's one big advantage I see. And the other big advantage, and I would second what Amit was saying, which is we're definitely very interested in having volunteers also come in and be part of ASHA, right? And again, and it might be, so in my case, for example, I took a year and a half, right? As I was in a 1.5 year stint, and right, I served as the CEO of Shikshana full-time on the ground. Right now, that said, there are other roles that are open. So, for example, as I said, we're investing in tech, so we're interested in folks who can come and do development work. Some of that can be done remotely, but at the same time, it has to be done in a dedicated way, right? And what I think has been a bit of a challenge in the past is having folks do some part-time work, and then it becomes slip in, slip out, and that just becomes hard. Especially now that we're interacting with the government, we have deadlines that are not movable, right? We have to deliver on those deadlines. So it would just be useful to have volunteers come in and support us in those kinds of projects. Maybe you're focused on management and you can help us with that. Maybe you're a teacher, in which case we don't actually teach, but there might be work on the program development side. So all of those are areas which I think ASHA is already ready to deliver on, and I think we could use help on that. That goes beyond the funding side, right? And then if you're interested in any of these, please pick me offline. Happy to tell you about what we're looking for at the moment, right? In terms of what ASHA can do better, as having been an ASHA volunteer, like I think I have a bit of an insider's view on what ASHA could be doing, but also from an external perspective, right? Things are going well, as I mentioned, right? But I think we also need each of us to take the time to understand the nuances, right? I think so for example, Sandeep was talking about, hey, here's the government issues, and here's how we have to interact with government, and I think you seconded it, and I get that, but that may be a unique context, right? Because when I look at it from a Karnataka perspective, here's what's happened, right? We started working with Vibha to launch what we call an accelerator program, right? And we did this in 2 districts, and Vibha funded it, right? And then we said, we went and put this in front of the government, and then we said, hey, this is how we want to do this. And the government said, okay, we'll put in half the funding. So the government's then putting in half the funding for 2 districts. And then as we're doing that, the government, the IAS office of the principal secretary in this case, is actually coming and pushing us, like, are you thinking big enough here? Like, how do we make this go faster? I'm happy with how the results you're delivering, but can we go faster? Right? That's the conversation you want to have, and this person's having it with you, and this person's pushing us, right? It's the other way around, right? And we've had administrators do the same thing. When I say administrators, I don't mean the IAS offices, but this vast bureaucracy that goes beyond IAS, that's actually pivotal to functioning, right? And that bureaucracy was initially a bit skeptical, because we really stepped up our government engagement over the last year and a half, and as we did that, they were a bit skeptical. They weren't sure how to deal with us. You're talking about motivation. What is this motivation thing? And I understand you have a new textbook for me. Like, that's easier for me to digest, right? And now we're saying, no, this is the kind of program. And so getting that engagement going has been very productive, because now they're super enthusiastic. They want to work with us. And starting with the student has also paid off for us, because very often the student ends up pushing the teacher. The student ends up pushing the administrator. I give examples of the student going, based on some of the projects we did, they went and pushed the panchayat to take actions around the school. And believe you me, gone and pushed that panchayat, president, nothing would have happened. And this small group of students went with this person, and it got done, right? It's just that the children have a lot more power in many of these conversations than it does, right? So it just feels that the contexts are different. So I think understanding the nuances and understanding what are the different problems that need to be solved, and what is the structured, serious approach to solving these problems at scale. I think that's really essential, right? Versus, because as an ASHA DC volunteer, I actually did a survey and I said, are we delivering on quality? And at least the consensus at that time was no, that's not our feeling. Are we delivering in scale? The consensus at that time is no. Like, are you happy? Yes. Help me understand this. So if you're not delivering on quality or not delivering on scale, then what exactly are we doing here, right? So I think, and by the way, I agree with all 3 comments now in retrospect, right? But then I think that we have to resolve that ambiguity. So what ASHA could be doing better? Come up with that framework. framework. I think this is what you have the working sessions on. I think using some of those working sessions to create that framework for yourselves, and then helping us understand what you want to get out of some of these things, and then preparing yourselves for scale. Now the funding, for example, that we are looking for is like, hey, I want to get to, we need to raise an additional 75 lakhs, right? So we're talking about something in the 100, 120K range. So how do I have that conversation, right? It's not enough to have that conversation with one chapter. Now, if you're going to have that with multiple chapters, what's the scalable approach for us to engage with the partnership? That's not good, right? So I think that would go a long way.
Thank you. So I'm going to summarize a little from my point of view, and I hope we'll keep all these comments and take them into our working sessions the rest of today and tomorrow, because I think there's lots of things that we learned from all of them today. Quickly, a very few things that I'm going to summarize is what I heard that ASHA roles could be, is providing, for example, on the ground, helping out, whether providing their expertise, helping with the organization, doing connecting with teachers training and other skills. We heard about ASHA helping structural issues that enables the organization to be most effective. So maybe working with the government at some levels to say either reduce corruption or taking some of those activist, quote unquote, activist roles to deliver on the, for example, the policies that already exist, such making them ground, like Harsan was doing. And then also about what Chala mentioned, like also internally looking inward and looking at ASHA, learning the nuances and all of, because we all tend to see the world through our own filters or our own lives. So it's very important for us to kind of step outside and kind of see the different nuances and different that exists in different parts of India. India is very wide and very diverse, and we all know that one thing that works in one place is not going to work in another place exactly the same way. So all of these things are great, and I hope we will take this to our working session. And we have about 11 minutes, so let's go and do questions. And it looks like we already have some questions.
Yep. Can you guys hear me okay? Sometimes it just doesn't work. Oh, Okay, so we'll have to get you out for lunch quickly. So I've chosen some few questions. I'll try to summarize it, one for each organization. And then the criteria is anybody who had a dollar attached. Just to get your questions next time, so you need to, it all goes to Asha, by the way, not for me. But. So one for Shikshana. So I'm combining a couple of questions here. It's great that you can measure motivation. Can you help us understand what you're doing to improve the students who are lacking the motivation? And then in terms of combining it with the education, like tablet-based education, what kind of educational materials you're using to customize it to improve the motivation?
Yeah, so I think you said quite correctly, there are multiple layers in that question. So in terms of what we do to drive motivation levels, I think that's the part I wanted to kind of lay out. Obviously, I could have done a better job. So there is no silver bullet for motivation, right? I wish there were a pill that I could give to every student as they walked in and suddenly they're motivated, right? And in the absence of that, right, what we do is we take a very life cycle kind of approach. This is a very marketing approach. If you think about motivating students, it's a marketing exercise, right? So how do I get the student into school? So that's motivation level number one, and this is where we do these rewards and incentives, right? But obviously, just like you're talking about a retail outlet, right? You've got to give these promotions, but then once this customer is in your store, you can't just keep on giving away more free money. That's not the point. So how do you then create the experience where the student needs to keep coming back? So the stickiness here comes from those peer networks that we are building in the school. So the peer network ironically does two things, ironically, but it does things. The first thing it does is because I've got my friends in school, I want to keep going to school. So then this is a very common theme that we've heard and been recognized in education journals in multiple locations, and I'm happy to share references. But then in addition to that, it also builds a safe zone for the student in the class. So when you have to learn, and if you visit a school and you just go and ask a question in the class, you'll find that there will always be a few students sitting somewhere who are trying their level best to just duck under the table. They don't want to make eye contact, they want to be invisible, right? And the thing is that it's because they don't feel safe, right? They feel like if you ask them something and they get it wrong, or you interact and they get it wrong in some way, everyone's going to mock them, right? So having that peer network increases their confidence to take those risks that are essential in the learning experience, right? So that's the second part of the motivation journey, is the peer network. And we do this by creating these student leaderships and what we call peer teaching exercises. The peer teaching exercises happen before school. That's actually what we went to school to monitor, by the way, which is we wanted to see our kids actually coming to school, before school starts, right? And it goes into then you talked about the teaching learning practices. What are we leveraging? The point is that we are actually agnostic to teaching learning methods, or neutral to them. So as long as they make some kind of sense, it's not scalable at the moment to launch a tablet program statewide or countrywide, and we are very optimistic that we will get to that stage. But in the meantime, what we've created are these booklets, right? And what we've said is we take booklets are all open source. We haven't created the content. We've taken the content from other open source locations, and we pull it together. What we've done is we've collated, curated, and organized. That's how we put it, right? And we put it so that you have the same concept being introduced in multiple ways, and then having a connection across the lessons that the child is learning, and then linking it back to the learning maps, which allows them to see the progress that they're making and what's missing and what's next, do their own goal setting. So I think you talked about decision making, which I thought was a very interesting thing. I think this is something we should think about as an area for improvement, right? But as you can see, this is our frameworks and our focus is not on the content. We actually want to leverage third-party content, or we're always on the lookout to see whose content we could leverage, right? And yeah, we actually see ourselves as almost as a marketing / injection agency, right? So if there are, and by the way, we have done this with a few others, which is to say, and AIF has put in some of their programs. We've also had this, and the English app I was talking to you about, I think it was Hello English, right? So the point is we're happy to introduce all of these and then see what the uptake is. Our goal is to drive adoption for this. If we find the kids are picking it up, adopting, and doing this, and then we find that across all schools no one's adopting it, then we'll drop it. We'll say, no, there is no interest. If we find that there's interest in some schools, but not in others, then we try to see how to improve the marketing and the adoption rates in those schools. So it's all about motivation, not on the teaching learning methods.
Okay, great, thank you. The other question is for BSPES. So request Vijay or Amit. First of all, apologies. I named your name. It was Vijay clearly, but maybe I might have. I had reading disabilities this morning, so sorry for that. So the question, it's a two-part question again. So how are you actually motivating the girls? I know you spoke about it a lot in terms of encouraging, and you also covered as part of the challenges. But the question specifically is around, do you see working with male volunteers poses a problem? And how do you recruit more female volunteers who can go and encourage and recruit more girls to come? So that's part one. And then as part of that, once you recruit and train them, do you see improvement and change? They're going back to the villages and then handling with issues such as improve their agriculture, any other issues in the village. So it's a two-part question, if you can answer that.
Actually, we have had good success with both categories, both male and female. Honestly, I have not seen any difference in that aspect. However, what I have seen is they might not be academically, on the higher side, but people who have a concept or the context of where they are operating deliver a lot of value to us in a very short time. And what we have found out is exceptionally talented people. The context of the place, they have actually deteriorated or created more problems for us. So the way we take is when somebody says, I would like to come and do volunteer work in your organization, one of the first things we do is we do what is called UBIization or Jattari contextualize. Where are you? What do you do? Right? There are certain norms there in a community, because these girls and these fathers are sitting and watching. These are the people who are interacting with my daughter, and news catches very fast. Whether good news reaches them or not, bad news reaches very quickly. And even to the extent if two volunteers, they cannot stay together in a guest house that we offer. We have a separate guest house for males, separate guest house for females. When people who are from even cities like Bangalore, right, they want to go around in the evening, stroll, and the safety is an issue, so we have to tell them, curtail them. Sometimes it's seen as a limitation. What do you mean for 7 hours? What am I going to do? There is no TV, there is no electricity. I can't go here, I can't go there. We have done that, and we have found the right with the value they have given to us is tremendous. The role models that they are able to present in front of the students are saying, how would you want to be? They'll say the volunteer's name. I want to be like her. What do you want to do? I want to do what she's doing. Everything she does is so nice. She talks well, she presents herself well. It could be an American who has now volunteered in our school. Other than her color, you will see that everything that she does is a typical UP person. She wears the proper dress, she's absolutely fine with eating what is available as staple there. She understands the norm. So you want somebody who just go around with the system and just get things done, and the impact is good. What about the students? What have they done? Even our students, when they go to work for a customer service job in Delhi, or go all the way out to Yoga University to learn about Patanjali Yoga Sutra, when they come back as much more poised and much more focused kids. And they are able to help their father sell more batata vada at the stall also. If they have a mela that is there, and there is this girl by name Deepika who's studying Learn and Earn program in Dr. Reddy Laboratory in Himachal Pradesh, and she came back for vacation, and her father keeps a tea shop inside a mela. She ran it in a systematic way because she's thinking like the Dr. Reddy Laboratory, saying, Pitaji, you should keep it like this, like this, like this. This is how. So the father is saying, we need to learn something and come. That has made more, saving more money. Why are you using so much sugar? This much sugar is enough, for example, things like that, So all of that comes back. What is the right way to, for example, the students ask questions now about asking the father, you sold the potato for 2 rupees. 100 gram potato chips for 10 rupees in the store. How come we are not getting that money? So she has learned the economics of things, so she mind is, the father is saying, what do you mean? Yes, that is what they sell a potato for. 100 grams is for 10 rupees, and you're per kilogram you're getting 2 kgs. So we are seeing that, in a good way.
Well, thank you. Again, all the questions will be answered. We're trying to compile it and then send it to the panelists, and then we'll get the answers for you for sure. Because again, we're all trying to get session times for everybody and then get you on the right place. Let's hear it for the panel, including the moderator.
I'd like to thank Harsha for giving us such an opportunity and platform. Obviously, with the presence of somebody like Sarji, we cannot come up to the height of what he has done. But it is always pleasure. There was one question which was there, which I wanted to address quickly, which was, what is the long-term goal of your organization? Actually, the long-term goal of our organization is to shut it down. Because Sarji is going to make the government schools come up to the level that we don't have to do this anymore. And we want to take the position of entrepreneurial money. When we want to give the money, we want to give the money to students who are coming out of government schools to start their own businesses. Away from education. We want to shut it down basically. So that's something I want to try. Thank you very much.
I'd like to request Region is here will volunteer to give some small mementos to the speakers. No, it's okay.
So, thank you again for
Thank you again. Just a few announcements. One is the lunches at the cafeteria area in the next adjacent building. So please follow some volunteers because it needs to be badged in. So please follow some volunteers. And then we want to give enough time for everybody, every session. So if you could be back at 1:30, that would be great. So self-motivation, please. We'll be back at 1:30.
you can ask
And then-
Chalan for some advice on motivation.
Yeah, and so
You can ask Chalan for advice on motivation.
yeah. You can definitely catch the panelists or other previous speakers for any informal lessons and questions. And then we also have another announcement that you want to make.
So I forgot to mention that we are running a signature campaign for the implementation of Justice Sudhir Agrawal's judgment. So there's a sheet in Hindi, just one line, implement Sudhir Agrawal's judgment, and in India we collect 1 rupee per signature, per signature. This is essentially we are fighting 3 legal cases at this time. At the level of Lucknow, for getting children whose admission has been ordered by the district magistrate, but schools like City Montessori are not admitting for 3 years. Second, at Allahabad level, for the overall implementation of RTI. So not just private schools, but even the government is expected to provide a school within a kilometer of every child's home. And the government is not doing its job. And the third is at the level of Supreme Court, where Mr. Jagdish Gandhi has formed an association of private schools and gone to the Supreme Court challenging the entire RTE. He's saying that the government is spending money to run its own school and also paying us 450 rupees per child per month. So why is the government wasting money on our schools? It should better take care of its schools and do away with the RTE Act, which obviously we don't want. So this whatever donation is there is for the legal cases to pay the advocates. Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll see you back at 1:30. Thanks.